The night had settled gently over the sacred city of Mecca, and with the fading heat of the day, a quiet calm embraced the land. It was a Monday, in the year 571, a moment that would pass like any other for most of the world, but in reality, it marked the beginning of one of the most transformative chapters in human history. The narrow streets of Mecca, lined with homes built of stone and clay, held within them a stillness that concealed the magnitude of what was about to unfold. In one of those homes, a woman named Amina had just given birth to a child, a boy whose arrival would change the course of humanity forever. Not far away, her father-in-law, Abdul Muttalib, received the news he had long been waiting for. His heart, already burdened by the loss of his beloved son Abdullah, now filled with a mixture of sorrow and overwhelming joy. He rushed to see the newborn, his steps quickened by anticipation. When he finally held the child in his arms, something stirred within him, a sense of awe, of deep love, and perhaps even a quiet awareness that this was no ordinary child. Carrying the baby with care, Abdul Muttalib made his way to the Kaaba, the sacred house that stood at the heart of Mecca. There, under the open sky, he gave thanks to Allah. He prayed with sincerity, expressing gratitude for this gift, and then he chose a name for the child, a name that would echo across centuries, Muhammad. When asked why he selected this name, he simply replied that he wanted both Allah and the people to praise him. It was a name not commonly used at the time, yet it carried a profound meaning, one that would soon become known to the entire world. This name had not come to him randomly. Amina herself had seen it in a dream, and when she shared this with Abdul Muttalib, he accepted it wholeheartedly. For her, the safe delivery of her child brought a sense of peace, especially after the pain of losing her husband before the child was even born. Yet, even in that moment of comfort, life would soon present her with another difficult test. In Mecca, it was a long-standing tradition to send newborns to be raised for a time by wet nurses in the desert. The harsh climate of the city was not ideal for infants, and the open plains offered cleaner air and a healthier environment. Beyond physical health, there was also a cultural reason. Children raised among the desert tribes learned pure and eloquent Arabic, growing up with strong language skills that were highly valued in Arab society. So, despite the natural pain of separation, Amina prepared to send her beloved son away. It was not an easy decision. For a mother, even a short separation from her child can feel unbearable, but she knew this was for his well-being. Meanwhile, wet nurses from the tribe of Banu Sa'd had come to Mecca in search of children to take into their care. They preferred babies from wealthy and well-supported families, as such arrangements often brought long-term benefits and connections. Although the newborn Muhammad came from a noble lineage, his circumstances were different. His father had passed away, and there was no immediate financial advantage for a wet nurse to choose him. One by one, the women selected other babies, leaving him behind. Amina stood there, watching as each child was taken, her heart sinking with every passing moment. It seemed as though no one would accept her son. Among the women was Halima, who had arrived late with her husband Harith. Their journey had been slow and exhausting because their animal was weak. They were already struggling due to famine in their homeland, and Halima had hoped to return with a child to care for. But as the day went on, she found no opportunity. Every family had already made their choice. Faced with the prospect of returning empty-handed, Halima felt disheartened. Yet, something unexpected happened. She encountered Abdul Muttalib and learned about his grandson. After discussing it with her husband, she decided to take the child, even though there seemed to be no immediate worldly benefit. She expressed hope that perhaps Allah would place blessings in this decision. That single choice would change her life in ways she could never have imagined. From the moment Muhammad entered Halima's care, signs of blessing began to appear. Their weak animal, which had struggled throughout the journey, suddenly became strong and swift. Halima, who had previously struggled to produce enough milk, now found herself with abundance. Even her own child, who had been restless and often cried, became calm and content when feeding alongside Muhammad. Their livestock, which had suffered from the drought, began returning with full udders, providing more milk than before. While others in their community continued to struggle, Halima's household experienced a remarkable transformation. It was as if an unseen mercy had descended upon them. Years passed in the open plains of the desert, where Muhammad grew strong in body, clear in speech, and pure in character. The environment shaped him in ways that would later become essential to his mission. The freedom of the desert, the simplicity of life, and the beauty of nature all contributed to his development. Eventually, the time came for Halima to return him to his mother. This was not an easy moment. She had grown deeply attached to the child and found it difficult to let him go. With tears in her eyes, she embraced him, kissed him, and said her farewell. Meanwhile, Amina, who had long awaited this reunion, finally held her son again. The joy of being together helped ease the pain of their years apart. For a time, they lived together in Mecca, sharing moments that Amina had once feared she would never experience. But this period of happiness would not last long. After about a year and a half, they traveled to Medina to visit relatives and the grave of Abdullah. The journey carried emotional weight, especially for Amina, whose memories of her husband resurfaced with intensity. On their return, tragedy struck. Amina fell ill, and her condition worsened as they reached a place called Abwa. She knew her time was near, and her heart ached not for herself, but for her son. The thought of leaving him alone in the world weighed heavily upon her. In her final moments, she spoke words that reflected the reality of life and death, acknowledging that everything in this world is temporary. Soon after, she passed away. At just 6 years old, Muhammad faced the loss of his mother, having already been born without a father. The pain was immense, beyond what words can describe. He stood there, a child confronted with a grief that many adults struggle to bear. With the help of Ayman, who cared for him deeply, he returned to Mecca. His grandfather Abdul Muttalib took him in and treated him with exceptional love and care. He kept him close, ensuring that he was never left out or neglected. The bond between them was strong, but it too would not last long. Just 2 years later, Abdul Muttalib passed away, leaving the young boy once again without a guardian. These repeated losses were not random. Each one carried a deeper wisdom, shaping his character and preparing him for the responsibilities that lay ahead. Through hardship, he developed resilience, empathy, and a deep reliance on Allah. After his grandfather's death, his uncle Abu Talib became his guardian. Though not wealthy, Abu Talib provided a home filled with warmth and affection. Muhammad grew up among his cousins, learning the realities of life, including the challenges of poverty. Despite these circumstances, he never complained. Instead, he sought ways to contribute. At a young age, he took on the responsibility of shepherding. This work taught him patience, responsibility, and reflection. Spending time alone in nature allowed him to think deeply about the world around him. These moments of solitude would later play an important role in his life. As he grew older, his bond with Abu Talib strengthened. When his uncle prepared to leave on a trade journey to Syria, Muhammad felt a deep sadness at the thought of separation. He expressed his feelings with sincerity, reminding his uncle that he had no parents to turn to. Moved by his words, Abu Talib decided to take him along. This journey marked the beginning of new experiences, exposing him to different lands, people, and cultures. Each stage of his early life was carefully unfolding, building the foundation for what was to come. Nothing in his life was accidental. Every hardship, every moment of joy, every loss, and every relationship was part of a greater plan. Through these experiences, he was being prepared for a mission that would not only transform Arabia but would eventually reach every corner of the world. And so, the story continues, one step at a time, one moment after another, leading toward a future that would illuminate humanity with guidance, mercy, and truth.